The program that I'm going to discuss today is to build a calculator. Now, this is the layout of the calculator that I have made. I have used a grid layout with 5 rows and 4 columns. You can choose any layout that you want. We have already covered layout managers. So now you can choose your own layout and you can put panels and you can try out different orientation of the buttons. The main thing that I will be concentrating in this video is how we implement the functions to calculate. Now you can see that I have taken the 10 digits and plus minus multiplication division mod and equal to, and this is the text box where we will have the numbers. Now the functionality that I am going to harp on in this video is that whether you uh, click on a number or you type a number, both the cases it should be working, because that is how a calculator works. Either you can type from your keyboard or you can press the mouse to enter the numbers, right? So now let us look at the code. In this code, obviously applet has been extended, and as you see, we can press on the buttons on the applet or we can enter the numbers using the keyboard. So that's why we had to implement over here two interfaces. One is the mouse listener for pressing the buttons on the applet, and the key listeners for using the buttons on our keyboard, right? Now, obviously, since there were so many buttons on the screen, let me again bring the applet. Since there are so many buttons on the screen, there are around 16 buttons. So I have taken an array of buttons. Again, this thing I have covered before in previous examples. This is called an array of objects. Button B, open third bracket, close third bracket. This is an array of object. And I have taken a text field and I have used a grid layout, right? Now in the init function of the applet, I have set the layout to G, that is the layout that I have chosen over here, and this T is the text field which I have declared over here, and I am allocating the memory inside the init function. Now look at this. This is how you work with array of objects. We have declared the array of object over here and we are allocating the memory at this point. Now as we have already discussed over here, this is the place where all the 16 buttons have individually been created. This is what you always have to do when you are working with array of objects. You have to declare the array of objects like this. You have to declare it like this. B is equals to new button within bracket the size, and then you have to individually uh, allocate the memory for each and every of the objects. Now over here I have used a for loop to add the buttons onto the screen. You see, I have used a for loop add and within bracket bi. So whenever I am calling the function add bi, the ith button is getting added to the screen, right? And I am using the loop only to add the mouse listeners to the button. So I do not have to repeat the sentences again and again. Now, as I already discussed with you, using the mouse, I am going to click the buttons on my applet. And at the same time, I can also use the keyboard to enter the numbers. So when I am entering the numbers using keyboard, Then the keys that are pressed, where am I going to enter the numbers using the keys of the keyboard? On inside the text field. So you see the key listener has been added to the text field. The mouse listener has been added to the buttons and the key listener has been added to the text field. Right? Now coming to the code. Now when we are entering the numbers, suppose I want to enter the number 12. So I will press 1 and then I will press 2. But when my calculator reads the number, the calculator must read the number as 12. So what is the challenge in this program? The challenge in this program is, first of all, when you are reading the values from a text box, as I have already discussed this before, anything that you read from a text box is always in string format. So this 12 that is there on the text, 12 that is there on the text field is actually string in nature. Now, when I am clicking 1, 2, and then a plus, then a 3 and a 4, that means, 4 and 3, let it be like that. So in that scenario, our calculator should be reading it as 12 plus 43. It should not be reading the individual digits. So how are we going to work with that? How are we going to create the numbers out of the digits that are getting entered? And again, all those digits, when they are being put inside the text field, they are in string format, right? So what have I done? You can choose your own method. I have taken OP1 to store the first operand, OP2 to save the second operand, and let me take a char operator as a char value. Right? Now, OP1 is going to save the first operand and OP2 is going to save the second operand. How am I going to understand that which is the first operand when user has stopped uh, giving the first operand as the input, and how am I going to understand that user is giving the second operand as the input? So I have to understand when user is typing the first operand and when user is typing the second operand. That is what I have to judge, and for that I have taken a flag. Now students, you need to understand, suppose I am typing a number 1 plus 1 1, and when I'm typing the number 1 1, after that if I want to add it with a number 2 2, then I have to give a plus sign in between. So as soon as I get a character, as soon as I get a plus, minus, multiplication or division sign, that means user has already done inputting the first operand, and after this the user is going to start inputting the second operand. Correct? Again, I will repeat. When I am giving the inputs, suppose I have to add 1 with 2. So I would input 1, then I will give a plus sign, then I will input a 2. So as soon as I give a plus sign, that means I am done with inputting my first operand. So that is where I have to understand, with the sign of the operator I have to understand that user have already inputted the first operand, and now user is going to input the second operand, right? So that means, suppose I am pressing over here 1 and then a 2. As soon as I press this plus sign, that means I am done with giving the first operand. And after the first sign, for plus sign, when I press on 3, that means I have started inputting my second operand. So this plus sign is the indicator, correct? So now let me come back to the code. Mouse clicked event has been designed. In the mouse click event, over here, you are familiar with this code by now. We are getting the source, that means which button on the applet has been pressed. Which button on the applet has been pressed, right? Now, in my code, button number 15 is this equal to sign where we are going to find out the result. So I'm going to come to this part later on. Let me come to the else part. Now you see, in the else part, I am getting hold of the button that has been pressed, and whatever button has been pressed, the value of the button is getting printed on the text box. You see, temp is storing the button that has been pressed. Temp.getLevel is giving us the level on the button. That means if I press the button with the level 1, then temp.getLevel is giving me the value 1, and t.getText is giving me what value was already there inside the text box. I am concatenating that and putting back into the text box. So when I press 1, in that scenario, my t.getText was empty before this. That is getting concatenated with the level of the button, that is 1, and that is what I am setting inside the text field. Now when I press 2, please understand this. As soon as I press 2, t.getText would return me the one that was already present inside the text box, and temp.getLevel will return me the 2 that is there on the button. Now 1 and 2 will get concatenated, and t.setText will put 12 as its content, right? So that is how 12 is getting displayed onto the text field, right? If I do not concatenate, then if I print only the level on the button inside the text box, then this whole thing will not get printed, and you will get individual 1 and individual 2 inside the text field, correct? Now come to this part. What is this part doing? Let me start from the very inner branch. T.getText is giving us the value inside the text box. So therefore, let's rerun it. Suppose I have pressed 1. So t.getText would give us the result 1. .trim, you know what trim does. Trim trims all the spaces which precedes or follows in a string. So we are getting only the string part that is there inside the text field. Dot length minus 1. So what is the length over here? Length of the string inside the text field is 1. So this length will return you 1. So 1 minus 1 is 0. So what we are doing? We are taking the char at 0th position. So char at 0th position over here is giving me 1. Now it doesn't stop over there. When we press a 2. Now let us come back to this one. T dot get text dot trim dot length minus 1. Now what is the total length over here? The total length over here is 2. So 2 minus 1 is 1. So T dot get text dot trim dot length minus 1 is 1. So this particular expression is returning me 1, and care at that position is returning me the value 2. Correct? So what I mean is, every time you press on the button, every time you press on the button, it is giving us the last character that has been typed inside the text field, right? Now using this character, if it is 0, 1, 2, 3 till 9, then we are creating the operand. Now please let us come to this point. You see, when we are creating the operand, we are creating the operand 1 when flag is equal to 0. We are creating operand 1 when flag is equals to 0. As soon as I get an operator, if whatever has been pressed is an operator, then the operator is set as the character and flag is made 1. So whenever an operator is pressed, the flag is made 1, which shows us that the first operand has already been inserted. Now it is the turn of the second operand. So in that scenario, if flag is 0, then we are creating the operand 1. If the flag is not 0, if the flag is 1, then we are creating the second operand over here. And how are we creating the operand? Whatever was the value of operand, we are multiplying 10 with it and adding the character to it. So therefore you see, previously 1 was inserted, right? So operand 1 was initially 1, correct? Now next time when we got the value of 2 over here, the 1 got multiplied with 10, 1 got multiplied with 10 and the 2 got added over here. So we got 1 into 10 plus 2, that is 12. 1 into 10 plus 2 is equals to 12. Now if I insert another number, suppose I insert 3 over here. In that scenario, what will happen? OP1 is already 12. So OP1 into 10 will be 120 plus 3 will give us 123, right? And the same logic goes when we are creating OP2, the same expression, right? The only difference is, if flag is 0, then operand 1 is getting created. If flag is 1, then operand 2 is getting created. And over here, if the given expression is uh, uh, any operator, then we are putting that in the operator part, right? Now let me come back to the if condition that I left before. If the button clicked is equal to over here, then we are coming to this part, right? If the button clicked is equal to over here, we are coming to this part. And what are we doing in this part? We are checking which is the operator, right? Because I have already saved operator that has been pressed in the operator variable. So I am checking in this switch case which is the operator, right? And whatever be the operator, result is getting saved OP1 plus OP2, OP1 minus OP2, OP1 into OP2, OP1 divided by OP2, OP1 mod OP2. So this is very easy. You check which is the operator, and depending on the operator, you create your own, you do your operation and store it in the result part. And as soon as you have done that, you have to set back your flag to 0 and OP1 and OP2 to 0 again, so that we can again start off with the second operation, right? And we set the value of the text field to our result part, correct? We put this result part. Now, okay. Now, what would happen if instead of these buttons I am using the key on the keyboard? It will work in the same manner, correct? The working will remain the same. So the same thing that has been written in the mouse click function has to get repeated in the key press event. You see, in the key press event, I have taken the key pressed. We know this also we have done in previous class. Get key char gives you the character that you have pressed on the keyboard, and that is placed in char C. And now the same code follows. The same code follows with the same variables. Now, mind you, students, the variables has to be the same. Otherwise, when you are combining the mouse and the keyboard, suppose I press 1 with my mouse and I press, let's start all over again. Suppose I press 1 with my mouse and I press 2 with the keyboard, then it should become 12 as a number, right? It's not like that. Since I have inserted 1 using the mouse and 2 with the keyboard, the values will become different. No, the values should remain as 12 as a whole. So that is why OP1, OP2, operator, all these variables has to be class level variables which will be used in both the functions. Clear? Now, go through the code. There are several shortcomings of this code. What is the shortcoming? If I now give a plus sign and I give the values and press equal to, that comes to 46. Now I again start typing 5 over here, correct? You see, my previous value is not getting erased. 5 is getting printed beside 46. But when I add 5 with 6, technically the number now has become 465 plus 6, which is obviously wrong because I have typed 5 and 6 together. So the value should be 11. My result is coming 11, but again, the number that was appearing on the text field was 456, correct? So how can I rectify that? This is number 1 assignment for you. When after the result I pressed on the number 5, in that scenario 46 should have been erased. It did not get erased. That is number 1 problem. Second problem, second issue. When I am using this keyboard to type, I can type ABCD as well inside the text field. Should this be allowed? No, this shouldn't be allowed, because as soon as I try doing any operation, plus, minus, multiplication, division, this will throw me a runtime error, and again it should not be allowed in a calculator. So how can I avoid that? So this is the second question, right? And third question is, suppose I want to do an calculation like 1 plus 2 plus 3. That means I want to do a series of calculations together, not one calculation. Now at this moment, this is a basic function of calculator that does only one calculation at a time. 1 plus 2, it gives you the result 3. Again, you start over with another operation, maybe 3 plus 4, and it will give you 7. But I want to do it together, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. How do I modify this function program to do that? So I am giving you 3 assignments. One, how can you clear the text field once the value has been received and I start over again with a new calculation. My text field should get erased, right? And it should start afresh. Number 2, I should avoid any ABCDs to get typed inside my text field. And number 3, I want to do a series of operations one by one, 1 plus 2 minus 3 division 4. How can I do that? A series of operations using this particular code. Now, a basic idea that you will have is I will take 3-4 operands, OP1, OP2, OP3, OP4, but try to understand there is no restrictions on how many operations you will be able to do. Right? I can do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8. In that scenario, how many operands will you be declaring in your class that will support operations one by one like that? So it is not a feasible idea to declare operands, going on declaring operands, right? So the thing is that you need to figure out how this particular code can be modified so that you can create you can create this calculator which can calculate a series of operations, but you do not need to use more operands. Then you need not use more than 2 operands for that case, right? So please try out this assignment and submit as soon as possible. Thank you.